Hi, my name is Justine, and I'm one of the writing and study skills tutors at Wake Tech. In this video, we'll be looking at some strategies for effective note taking. So first, let's just think about why notes are so important. We know we should take notes for school, but the process of note taking, when done effectively, actually can also help us focus better and make sense of difficult concepts. Taking notes also can help improve active listening skills and the retention of material. And of course, it gives you a record of information to study from later when it comes test time. So let's take a look at some proven methods for how to take good notes. First, a really big part of good note taking starts even before you write anything down. And that's just all about being prepared and organized so that you're ready to learn. You want to know what topic or chapters the instructor will be focusing on before you go into a lecture and have those materials handy. You should be able to find this information on the course calendar within your syllabus or on Blackboard. Then, once you begin writing, you want to avoid aimlessly writing everything down that the instructor says. If you start with that goal, you're likely to get lost and overwhelmed with all the content that's coming at you. So instead, you want to have some kind of strategy with your note taking so that you end up with a good set of notes and understanding by the end of the session. So rather than writing down everything, focus on the key information. Listen for subtopics and keywords or phrases like this is important or this will be on the test. You can abbreviate in a way that makes sense to you and note repeated ideas, maybe with an R rather than continuing to write everything down. You might also use underlining or starring or color coding, but if this is too much to do right during the lecture itself, you could always come back and add those details later. Now, it's a good idea to just write on the front sheet of loose leaf paper. This way your notes are easy to read and you can shuffle the papers around if needed. You want to keep eye contact with your instructor when possible to stay focused, and be sure to list any extras that you hear, like examples that are given or even questions that come to your mind. Now, while you're strategizing your system for taking notes, it's also helpful to think of how you're going to structure them. So using a particular format for your notes can also help you be more successful with writing down key information and having a really good study tool to use for later. So let's look now at some good ways to organize your notes. This one here is called the Cornell method, and it's a popular note-taking structure invented by a professor in the 1950s. You basically just divide your sheet of paper into 3 columns like this to give your notes some structure. And at the top, you would list the topic and date, any identifying information for what you're working on that day. So here is an example of how you might structure Cornell notes. On the far left column, you see that you can list big concepts like prenatal development, and then the larger middle column is for the details about that concept. While in the far right column, you would list the corresponding page numbers for your text, so you can go back and get more information there. Now, if this is too much to keep up with during the class with new information coming at you, you can always complete this later. Just take what you've written in class and then structure it in this way to organize your notes. And then by the end, you can see you've really just created a nice study guide for yourself. But there's not just one format of notes that's best for every student or every course. These are some other strategies you might use. Maybe an outline that starts with main ideas and then lists examples and details, concept maps that visually present main ideas and those supporting points, and charting, which organizes topics in columns. So let's look at those in a little more detail. Outlining your notes can be a little less formal and gives you more flexibility. It's helpful to use this format when the instructor's content is presented in an organized way, like a PowerPoint presentation or something similar. But like the Cornell method, you can see that an outline of your notes also ends up being a really great study tool for later in the way that the information is presented. If you're a visual learner, you might like this strategy of visually mapping concepts from a reading or lecture into your notes. This helps you make connections with the material and organize ideas in a way that makes sense to you, all while seeing those connections right there on the page. And the charting method is another way to structure your notes, and it's really helpful for those courses that have lots of facts and details, maybe a history class or a science class. For this strategy, you use columns to organize your information. So these columns help you list your details so they can be easily reviewed later. So you can see there are lots of different ways to approach the way you structure your notes. And maybe you'll use different strategies for different courses or a combination of those strategies. But the key is that you're using some sort of technique because that's going to help keep you engaged with the material and give you a study tool for when you're preparing for the tests on that information. So thank you for listening. I hope you've learned some helpful information about how to improve your note-taking skills. And remember that if you would like some help with that process or any other study skills, you can always schedule a one-on-one tutoring appointment with us. Okay, thank you and good luck.